You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming here. And we're going to share. There's been a lot of questions in the community about what's the future of Jefferson, and we'll share with you today, from an economic development standpoint, what our plans are for the property and the process we're going through with our board and leadership to set the future for that property. First, before we start, I know for media purposes, I'll have the board introduce themselves, but if they also could spell their first and last name for media, I'd appreciate that. So Tom, if you don't mind.
Sure. Tom Wachholz, and that's W-A-C-H-O-L-Z.
Kevin Kopishke, K-O-P-I-S-C-H-K-E.
Jeff Patience, P-A-T-I-E-N-C-E.
Mark Branchenet, M-A-R-K-G-R-A-N-D-G-E-N-E-T-T.
Dina Steffel, D-E-E-N-A, Steffel, S-T-E-F-F-L.
And Brent Smith, B-R-E-N-T-S-M-I-T-H.
This is your board of directors for the Alexandria Area Economic Development Commission. I'm Jason Murray, executive director, and it's J-A-S-O-N-M-U-R-R-A-Y. Our vision started for this property back when we started with our strategic planning. We met and interviewed over 180 businesses and business and community leaders to start our process. And what come out of that was setting a tone for our community as it addressed community, economic, and workforce development. How could we, as you can see by that little graph up there, how do we interlink those three areas as an economic development leader for our community? And that started the conversation about in our strategic plan. And as we looked at this property, how does this property intertwine directly with that strategic plan and create some economic vitality for our community? The Economic Development Commission's mission is to be a regional center sustaining a vibrant and growing economy with a capable and productive workforce to support our businesses. The mission of the EDC is to provide regional leadership in a collaborative effort to facilitate job growth. And the final partner in this is the Lakes Area Economic Development Authority. The authority is our public entity. Members consist of the City of Alexandria, City of Garfield, Alexandria Township, and the Grand Township. And the EDA's mission is to support the EDC's mission with fair and equitable resources. A little brief history. This project started in 2011 when the Smiths signed the purchase agreement with District 206. In that purchase agreement, it allowed for the transfer of that property to any entity furthering community and economic vitality, prosperity for this community. The agreement allowed that property to be transferred at the original price that the Smiths paid for it. In the fall of 2011, a group consisting of the City of Alexandria, the Alexandria Technical and Community College, Alexandria Area Economic Development Commission, Alexandria Technical and Community College Foundation, Lakes Area Economic Development Authority, Orb Management Corporation, Knut Nelson, Douglas County Hospital, and Brent and Sally Smith met to discuss the future use of that property. What we found out, major reuse, potential reuse of that property from a medical and educational purposes. As you can see from all the entities involved, some of them were very public, a couple of them were nonprofit, but we had an economic opportunity here to further medical and education opportunities here in our community. We found out quickly that the building with hazardous materials in it was going to be the major one to the eventual reuse and redevelopment of that property. At the conclusion of the strategic planning process, after following through with these meetings with the members, the EDC and LAEDA chose to lead the initiative to acquire the property. The plan is for the Lakes Area Economic Development Authority to acquire the property. It will redevelop just roughly 44 acres. The property consists of about 153,000 square feet of building and accessory building uses, plus athletic fields and other secondary school uses. Hazardous materials abatement is needed on a major portion of the old high school. The property in question that we're talking about is highlighted there in red. You can see the main campus of the current high school here, and the property flows out to the athletic fields here, the college, just for reference points here, Knute Nelson just off the screen, and then there's some condominiums over here. So the property in question is highlighted there in red. Before moving on with any further of the presentation, I'd like to introduce Brent Smith to come up and make a statement on behalf of the Smith family.
Hello, thanks for being here. Comedian Jeff Foxworthy said, "You might be a Minnesotian if someone in a store offers you assistance and they don't work there." Alexandria is a great place to live, and Douglas County is a great place to live, and Sally and I are indebted to this community. I met my sweetheart, married my high school sweetheart. Sally and I are both graduates of Alexandria. We had great teachers in the school system. All three of our kids were born at our hospital. Sally works at this college, and I work at the AGARD group, and 40+% of my coworkers are graduates from this technical college. So we're very much indebted to this community, and are really happy to be here. Now the facts regarding why we're here today. Since June of 2011, Sally and I have had a purchase agreement with District 206 to buy the 44-acre Jefferson property. This is a solid investment with exciting potential that we are happy to have. However, equally as exciting as personally owning this property is the prospect that our community might own and control this property and strategically use it to empower our collective future. We see a future for Alexandria as a world-class healthcare, educational, and technology center, empowered and enabled by this property. And to that end, we are pleased to serve as a conduit.
Thank you, Brent. Now I'd like to introduce Tom Walkel with Board Management to share some of the redevelopment analysis that their organization concluded for us.
Thank you, Jason. So the Alexandria Technical and Community College, jointly with Economic Development Commission, thought it would be important to take a look at the potential scope of work and some of the costs associated with potentially redeveloping a portion of that Jefferson High School facility. So we looked at renovating the existing gymnasium into a manufacturing and technology center. That could be a public-private partnership with the college. We looked at demolition costs for the balance of the existing facility, and also, as Jason mentioned, a big part of this analysis included the hazardous materials that exist in that facility. And then we also identified locations of all the existing utilities and infrastructure, just to make sure that what was there was going to serve any potential future use, and if there were any potential issues that needed to be corrected at this time. The hazardous abatement process involved Midwest Environmental Technology. That firm does a lot of hazardous material reporting, statutory reporting by K through 12 high schools around the state. We also involved Whitsett Smith Nolting to do some civil engineering, structural engineering analysis, and also some facility experts and architectural expertise to look at the facility. And part of the process built upon information, as you know, that the district, prior to this transaction, when they were looking at the new high school, they did some work on the building as well to determine whether or not it was feasible to reuse that facility or renovate that facility. So we talked a lot with the leadership at District 206, the contractors that they have involved, to help gather information for this analysis. Then the other thing we did is we compared, so what if instead of renovating that existing gymnasium into this manufacturing technology center, what if we just tore the whole thing down and built a new facility so that we had some reference point to compare redevelopment versus new. I guess arguably not surprising, the cost difference was less than 10%. Part of it has to do with the age and the condition of the structure that's there, the hazardous materials that need to be removed. And I think probably the most important thing was that if you go with new construction on this manufacturing technology center, you can put it in the location that you want it in. So it's, instead of being, and we'll show a conceptual master plan, but instead of having that, fixed location where the existing gymnasium is, you could actually choose the right location to put this new facility. And then the last thing we did was we looked at the property as a whole and just played some what ifs from a potential future uses of the balance of that property. So the next, I'm sorry. This is a snapshot of the conceptual master plan that we went through, and it just shows the outline of the property, some access and circulation, stormwater retention ponding. You can see the technical college in the lower right-hand corner, which again is not part of this property, and then various areas that we looked at for potential future uses. And that also involved discussions with the city from a zoning and from a master plan. The last thing that we talked about was what is the potential economic impact? And again, these are numbers that are very conceptual in nature, but based on a lot of history in the development process. So you have a total land area of approximately 44 acres, and some assumptions that we made is we said, let's just say out of the 44 acres, 35 of that 44 is buildable. And then from there, 40% of the 35, so that do the calculation, if you figure that the fact is 43,560 square feet per acre, you have about a 1.5 million square feet of land. And then we assume that 40% of that is for actual physical structures. The rest would be access, circulation, green space, ponding, things of that nature. And then an average construction cost of $140 per square foot. And Jason will touch on some of the uses, potential uses of that site. It averages, or it varies from medical to neighborhood mixed use. So you have a variety of different potential project types, and with that comes a variety of potential costs per square foot. Obviously, medical facilities are more expensive than a residential facility or manufacturing facility. So if you do the math, arguably $84 million in potential economic impact on this property.
Thank you, Tom. As many of you have heard and read in media also, the next steps for our process in this is a bonding request to our state legislature. We're asking for $2.9 million as part of the bonding bill this year to be included to the Lakes Area EDA to help with the acquisition and demolition and abatement of the existing facility. The $2.9 million is set out in two files, Senate File 2457 and House File 2641. Senate File is being led by Senator Bill Engelbrechtson, House File being led by Representative Mary Franzen. You have statements from both of our legislators later in the presentation. Here's one from Mary. I'll let you read it for yourself instead of reading it for the media. I'll let you. You've got it in your packet, but also I'll let you take a look at it there on the board. Secondary statement from Senator Bill Engelbrechtson. So we are moving through the legislative process with those two bills, with our leadership, and hopeful of attaining that $2.9 million to help with the acquisition and demolition. One of the things that with this property that is very evident for our community is this property will help us strengthen our manufacturing core. Alexandria is home to several of the world's most recognizable manufacturing and is a packaging machine mecca. We're one of the strongest retail, hospitality, and small business communities in greater Minnesota. Our information technology and utility infrastructure that is recognized best in class. An education sector that leads the country in student performance measures and placement. A regional healthcare that ranks as one of the nation's best. All this has led us to be one of the top micropolitans, fastest growing micropolitans in the U.S., along with the 7th best livable small town in America. We hope with this property to strengthen those core areas for our community. It touches everything. This property, as you can see, with our master plan, is about to try and strengthen those 4 or 5 areas. Obviously, you can see we're targeting medical for a major reuse of it. We want to support our manufacturing and technology community with a new training center that will be being adjacent to the college, strengthen some of the education foundation here in our community. We also have a future use for some more student housing. However, that property, I want to make clear that it's currently the transportation building for the district. That is not part of this, but as a future reuse, we believe there's some areas for student housing that would help integrate the campus and the community on that property. And then the property closest to Nokomis has more of a neighborhood mixed use, potentially some commercial activities just with that going forward also. So as you can see, our foundation is medical and education that will support much of our business sectors here in the community that have made us what we are today. With that, we have our board of directors here. We can answer any questions you may have on the project. If you'd like, we can redistribute the microphones at this time also to gather any comments from the board if you'd like. So I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to redistribute your mics.
Yeah, lots of questions.
Excuse me, can I move my mic?
Yep, go ahead. Why don't we?
If those are guys are gonna be the talking?
Yep.
I want to hear them.
Or we can each step up to the podium.
Whatever you
Could you do that? Okay, I want to hear you guys. It's a great project. I love the way you're handling it.
Thank you.
I was hoping you just put it right in the middle.
You can go first.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll wait till they step up, since they got the cameras queued up. I was talking to the Douglas County Hospital as well, a little bit about this project, and just some questions about the medical services. Is that something that's going to be tied in to the Douglas County Hospital, or are you thinking some independent type businesses over there, or is that going to be more training for allied tech students?
Well, I think it's all three, and I'll let the board address it. I'll just give it from my perspective of working on the project and being part of it as a partner in this. And it's really to integrate some of the services. If it's to allow the hospital to grow with services they don't currently have or cannot fit on their campus, it certainly will support Douglas County Hospital's growth. We also have seen such a strong growth in the entrepreneurial specific service sectors like the pain center, the VA center. We've got a wonderful chiropractic and wellness community here. We've seen a lot of that grow in our community also, and we certainly want to support that. And this property will also help support some of the entrepreneurial opportunities here in our community. But certainly because of the vicinity of the college, it's going to have some tie-in to some of the medical education, medical training that is here. Kevin, you want to address it a little further?
Yeah, from the college's perspective, we're certainly interested in looking ahead. And I think whenever you look ahead and you have a plan like this on the table, you don't expect this to happen in 6 months. In fact, I was thinking back of in the early 70s when we moved here, the people at that point in time decided to put sewer around all the lakes in Alexandria. And it was a tough decision, and there was a lot of community resistance. Now think about that. What if we wouldn't have done that? What if we wouldn't have had that idea and made that investment? What would these lakes look like today? So we start to look at this project, and we did not start this project with the end in sight. But as we start to think about what could happen, You've got this 44-acre site right in the middle of our community. You've got a strong manufacturing presence, healthcare presence, and educational presence. Could something in the next 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years be developed here that we aren't even thinking about today? And the answer is yes. And that's why the college is so interested in jumping in, because we have major signature programs on the healthcare side, the manufacturing and technology side, and certainly the law enforcement side, in addition to the other components that we have on the liberal arts side at the college. So we would look at potential opportunities with expansion. What they are going to be, we don't know today. But at the same time, it's important to be able to have the opportunity to use the space that's here with the partners that are around here. This central core neighborhood that we've got with manufacturers and education and healthcare and long-term care facilities just makes a lot of sense in terms of looking at the potential of that mix in the future and having a place where we can continue to build on the reputation that this community has.
So Kevin, you're very comfortable with the footprint. You think the technical college is really protected as far as whatever you guys need to do in the future? We
are very comfortable with this. In fact, we had looked at the property earlier on anyway, and a couple of years ago we had at the last bonding bill in 2012, we had a proposal into Minskew to purchase 19 acres. That proposal did not make it up to Minskew's priority list, so we were not able to purchase that land with the kind of revenues that we would have had through the state of Minnesota through Minskew. So now this next option really looks as the best option for us. And we've targeted, we've looked at the possibility of an expansion of our manufacturing, mechatronics, machine tool centers, connected with the industry that we have that really serves that mecca of packaging machine manufacturing in this community, in this region. We certainly have some interest in healthcare. What's that going to look like as we look at the next 10 years, 5 years? I don't think there's any industry in the country that's changing as much as healthcare right now. With ACA and the other kinds of things that are out there, we don't have all the answers, but we've got enough people who are thinking ahead to say, look, let's make sure that we've got an opportunity to have some space if we need space, that we invest in that, because the return on that investment is, I think, much broader and much greater than the investment itself.
Just to follow up on that, Kevin, I believe you have some facilities out by the airport. Would this potentially give you space to bring them into one campus setting, or what's your thought on that?
Good question, because as we speak, next year we will be vacating that. The interior design program will be coming back on campus, and we're looking for a different use for that facility as we speak. So right, this will really become the campus for the college.
Just a general overall question. What can we call this instead of the redevelopment of the old high school thing?
Ask our marketing coordinator. No.
Out with the old and with the
Yeah. I think right now, just we've been just named at Jefferson High School redevelopment. That's the name we went with, Amy. So maybe we can term it something different by the end of the day for you and get something creative for you.
And I know now it's on the floor, correct? These bills have been...
Correct. They've been introduced. Both have been introduced in their respective legislative branches. The Senate has been referred to the Finance Committee, and the House bill has been referred to the Economic Development and Finance Committee. Both are waiting their first hearings.
Do we have a kind of time frame after, if they pass or if they don't pass, when we're going to get started on this project? Or
It'll be to the end of the legislative session. It'll go because it's a bonding bill. We're included most likely in the bonding bill at the end of the session. It'll be in the last week of the legislative session before we know if the project's been supported at the state level.
What will be the handling of it if it doesn't go through? Is there a secondary continuation phase, Jason, or how are you handling that? At this point, there is no plan B. We spoke about that in a meeting here not too long ago, and right now, our plan A is solely focused on the legislative session without a plan B. So we're putting a lot of weight and emphasis on our legislative leaders. Is it possible we could hear some comments from the other board members as well? Sure. To see their visions or their thought processes? Sure.
Can I get somebody to explain what would you say to the general public? What you envision this to be?
Go up on mine.
What was that question again?
What do you envision this to be? How would you explain what this is potentially going to look like 5 to 10 years
Sure,
from now?
sure. I think we're going to kind of regurgitate some of the same comments as we've been sitting in the same meetings, but it's definitely going to be an opportunity for this community to develop what we want it to be. I mean, it is a blank canvas for us to entertain offers from several different entities and implement what we want it to be. I foresee it hopefully in, as Kevin and Jason have said, 5, 10 years down the road into a developed campus of some sort, and hopefully include, dental, eye doctors, multitude of those type of industries, those types of businesses, because that's what our community is based on. We would love to see the small businesses develop here for sure.
What is your business background, sir?
I am a commercial lender with Bell State Bank and Trust here in town, representing Alexandria Township. So the growth possibility is fantastic. I mean, it is something that this community could definitely take the benefit of and really drive towards the next 5, 10 years of our economic future, really.
Jeff, you're kind of involved with the academies and the high school programs. So do you see this as you have healthcare workers right here on the site, and then you kind of have that kind of, we can just go across the hallway to an actual business that's doing what we're trying to do? Is that kind of the...
Correct. Yep. The vision is if we can get those types of businesses to commit to some portion of this property, that access is definitely available to the students, to the community. Anybody who would be willing to open their doors to accept, like for example, like you said, the new academies, those types of industries that those academies focus on. If those industries are here close to campus, definitely an opportunity. So, thank you.
Can you introduce yourself again and background?
Sure. I'm Mark Grangenet. I am the new president of the EDC board. I'm representing Lake Mary Township. And my business background is I work for Bremer Bank. And I've been in the community for about 13 years. And for my thought process on this project, it's helpful to know a little bit of my background. I come from a small farming community where I grew up in Iowa, where we don't have manufacturing. We don't have the school systems that we have here. And we don't have the medical facilities for sure. My parents have to go about an hour and a half to go to a good medical facility. I moved here 13 years. I've seen a lot of change since I moved here. And that change is because of the innovative thinking and the opportunities that have come to this community throughout the years. It's not just by chance that this has become a good manufacturing mecca, as Jason put it. I've heard the saying, the Silicon Valley of packaging machines. And when we moved here, my wife and I moved here, the opportunity, I was already with Bremer, but I had an opportunity at another community as well. But we looked at the two communities, and we looked at Alexandria, and we had vacationed up in the Battle Lake area, so we were familiar with this area. But when we came here, one of the first things we did was look at the school. Almost the deciding factor of not coming here. But I said to my wife, my son was going into first grade at Carlos, our oldest son, and I said, by the time our kids get to the high school, there'll be a new high school. Well, our second son will be the first senior class there. So one of our kids made it there. But it was almost a deterrent to move here, actually, because some of the other communities that we've looked at had better schools. But this community's come a long way, and a lot of that is because of the forward thinking with the school bond referendum, put a new high school here, and that's going to make a big difference for companies that are trying to draw, for medical facilities that are trying to draw good doctors. And the way I see this project is just another piece of that puzzle. I mean, we've got an opportunity here that you just don't always get. A lot of communities don't get 44 acres in the middle of town, surrounded by a what I call regional medical center, a great college, and the support of the manufacturing community that we've seen come out with the new high school project, and the guys are stepping up and putting money into machines for that. So when I look at this, we don't know what it's going to look like 5 years from now, but we know the opportunity that we have today, and we can't, we can't close our eyes to that, because that's what's made this community, is being innovative and not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing what we can do today to try to make something happen in the future. So that's my thoughts on it.
Just real quick, Mark.
Okay.
A big portion of this is medical, is what we're talking. Is there someone on the board that's involved in the medical community here, or are you talking to 180 businesses? So you're obviously talking.
Yeah, Jason, we've had some, in our strategic planning for the EDC, we've always had we've always had a presence from the medical community involved with our strategic planning processes. So from that standpoint, yes, they are definitely on board with the development in the area. So I don't know if you want to talk to that at all in more detail.
No, that's good. They've always been a
No one
partner.
sits on our board that's on the medical, is that what you're asking? Yep.
Okay.
You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota. You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota.